I'm going to give the only advice you might ever need if you ever find yourself so down bad that you're just trying to get lucky. If you find yourself feeling like a Skel or a Potato from the Eminence and Shadow, and you're listening to someone who calls himself Count Virgin Boy, don't. Simply don't. You are not getting advice that will actually aid you, and oh my lord. The out-of-pocketness of this week's episode, the insanity, the only reason these two boys aren't dead right now is because Shadow Garden firmly believes anything related to Sid will in return equal something that will be discovered. And it almost always does, as seen by the dragon's tears, but seriously, never listen to a Count Virgin Boy. They aren't gonna steer you right. Full live reaction over on my Patreon if you would like to see my full and cut thoughts. They're over there if you're interested. This was a wild episode for sure. It was absolutely shameless. They were hiding a lot of the shots that, I mean, almost every other scene once we got to this hot springs, this little pool area, something was in our face, whether on a bottom or chest area. And I think what's interesting about anime now when you compare it to like early 2000s anime, so for a long time, the classic beach episode was almost always around episode 6 of like any school series or any almost like slice of life series. There almost always was a fan servicey episode. And it got to the point where like it was a meme and people made fun of it because the episode, when you remove them, they don't really add anything other than slight eye candy. And it's like, you know, you can go watch things that will give you more than that. What's interesting about anime in like the past decade or so is the fact that they still find ways to introduce those types of episodes, those like swimsuit fan servicey episodes, but if you look at an episode like this, they actually do something with it, whether that's just simply having comedy that makes it insanely fun. Like, I think Skel and Potato are absolute idiots. Like, they are some of the dumbest characters I think I've seen in a hot minute, but I'm so glad that they have moments like these because it cracks me the hell up. But when you look at Shadow Garden, who is the entire reason anything really happens in the show to begin with, the fact that in the middle of an episode where they're just busting out of their tops, we discover some dragon's tear ritual that in return is going to make them probably even more money. And I love the fact that Sid doesn't even have to be in an episode for an episode of Eminence and Shadow to just absolutely pop off. I wasn't sure where we were truly going by the end, but I always assume that if Shadow Garden has it in their mind that this is a plan, the plan's going to come together in some way. And the fact that these two dumbasses will just barge into his room. Two masks. You have the mundane man, average young man mask just chilling there. We have John Smith's mask just chilling there. And what do they see? They see 6 tickets to basically Wonderland. This is like the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory to them. And the fact that there's 6. There is 6 tickets. And what do these scumbags do? Here's the thing. We know Sid doesn't give a shit. Sid doesn't really care about any of this. But it's the fact that from their point of view, their BFF, they barge into his room, steal his tickets, and say, oh, 3 women are coming. There's a ticket for me, a ticket for you. Where would the 6th ticket go? Oh, I'll just have the other. This man, these men, or these boys, I should say, I am so glad for the comedy they bring, but goddamn, when I see them get a volleyball to the face and bloody nose drowning under the water, it's very satisfying because they absolutely deserve it. I like the fact, though, that the way they end up going with the whole, like, okay, the tears, right? So these two boys are not going to be enough for princess tears. It's enough to maybe get the rumbling starting, but the fact that they're just, like, helping each other, trying to scale the wall, basically, they're trying to climb Mount Everest from their point of view, and they get squirted by soap or something. It's some sort of like substance that blinds them a little bit, and they're crying. The fact that this poor elf has to then be the real princess crying, and then we see like this beautiful scene. I love the idea that the Eminence and Shadow doesn't just simply have to have Sid with multiple identities. It can also be Shadow Garden. So like the fact that they're like transform into this almost like magical girl, Powerpuff Girls. Like I wasn't even sure where we were building up, but I was like, go Power Rangers, whatever you're doing, I'm here for this. The outfits looked pretty cool. I like the idea that all of them can have different identities depending on what's going on. Sid will have no idea what's truly being built up here, but from their point of view, this was all part of Master Shadow's great grand plan, and despite these two being idiots, you know, clearly they were here for a reason. And just immediately, I think it's around like the 17-minute mark or something when it all starts to click. When I see them start to cry and like the things are like activating, I had to pause and collect myself because I was like, you can't tell me with a straight face, we're gonna go the route that they're just going to assume that Sid brought these two idiots here so that they could discover some secrets. Because when you do the flashback, right, Sid just being his little chuny self, the fact that he points off and then he flies off in the sunset, they discover the hot springs, like everything Sid does, they just are collectively like, this is a master plan. When in actuality, Sid is just a chuny. Sid is just someone who is doing things for himself and just trying to live out his wildest, insane dreams. And somehow it always works out and they just worship the ground he walks on. And honestly, I thought we were going to get a fight when they're all in the room kind of like making the plan of who's going to go to the hot springs with them. I love the fact that they're all like gearing up, like people are leaving the room. You're thinking there's going to be a big rumble, and then it's just rock, paper, scissors. Like, of course it is. It's, you know, just like diffuse the situation in the most childlike way after having some of the most like fierce people in one room together. I do have a question though. It's going to be question of the week, because there is a lot of really good characters that are a part of Shadowguard. I'm curious who's like everyone's favorite member of Shadowguard, because I think at this point Delta's probably my favorite. I really do like the idea that she literally is a dog, and like I don't really feel bad degrading her in that way because she legitimately is. Her mannerisms, like just when she'll be around like things, it's almost like she's sniffing out Sid or sniffing out something. When people insult her, she doesn't clue into it right away. Like people will call her like a dumb mutt or a wild mutt, and then like they'll continue the conversation, and about 5 or 10 seconds later, she'll respond in an angry way like, I'm not a mutt. Just everything about her cluelessness and just her lack of understanding things like right away. She's that simple-minded but such a fun character that without her, I think a lot of scenes would be a lot more boring. And I really enjoy her, and I'm curious like where like the fandom is for the Eminence and Shadow, like who's like the guaranteed topic. I think Delta's probably up there, but there's a lot of good ones as well. But either way, this was a funny episode. It was spicy, it was funny, had a little bit of violence, but most importantly, it had a style that just made sense for the show. And honestly, I'm a fan when a show can be this shameless, yet still show me something cool with like the little dragon tear story, or the fact that the comedy just is fantastic. Like, no matter what you think of these two quote-unquote friends of Sid, at the end of the day, they add a lot of comedy, and they don't always have them a part of scenes. Like, if they were here every single episode, their type of humor and their type of personality would be boring and it would grow stale. But they bring them up at the appropriate moments, and I think this was the perfect type of episode for them to just be shameless, and we could learn more about who they worship. And like I said, don't listen to Account Virgin Boy. It's not going to go over well. Thoughts and feelings yourself down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you get notified when I upload more reviews. Channel, like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have randomly Vasuva Granada, Gabby G, Attack Owl, Minless, Gomison, and Ray Quiggs. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.